brother on his show called Abba. I'm assuming he's a 5%. Unc has this brother on his show called Abba. I'm assuming he's a 5%. Unc has this brother on his show called Abba. I'm assuming he's a 5%.
But we haven't done our homework. We don't do scholarship here, right? You do, but you're not prepared to show it to us. So.
What's the other brother's name? I forget. Is it Shabazz?
Well, brother. I'm Rob Bourne, y'all.
Alan.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. All right, this is what we're gonna do.
Move forward because it's gonna become.
Unc has this brother on his show called Abba. I'm assuming he's a 5%. There were several 5%ers in that group, but Prophet Jesus is mentioned in their lessons. And it states that his practice or his teachings wasn't Christianity.
What's the other brother's name? I forget. Is it Shabazz? What's the other brother's name? I forget. Is it Shabazz?
Unc has this brother on his show called Abba. I'm assuming he's a 5%.
But we haven't done our homework. We don't do scholarship here, right? You do, but you're not prepared to show it to us. So.
What's the other brother's name? I forget. Is it Shabazz?
Brother. I'm Rob Bourne, y'all.
Alan.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. All right.
So let's start here. The Archaeology of Islam in Sub-Saharan Africa by Timothy Insull, published in 2003, pages 229 to 230.
What up, world? See, I ain't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. It's only so long that you can throw your rocks and try to hide your hand before I say something. See, I ain't gonna call him a liar. I'm just gonna prove it.
So let's start here. The Archaeology of Islam in Sub-Saharan Africa by Timothy Insull, published in 2003, pages 229 to 230.
229, 230. We there. You're gonna start reading at this bottom paragraph.
It reads, the conversion of Islam of the inhabitants of Ghana is an issue which has been the subject of much debate and misinterpretation. Formerly, it was widely held, based upon readings of the Arabic historical sources, that conversion was forcible. Key. So key. All right, I don't want to lose the point because, there's what he's saying when he's saying Arabic historical sources, there's context because you had Jews that converted into Islam and then they started writing canonical texts that demeaned our people as well. These things that went against what Prophet Muhammad himself taught. But we'll get into that. He gives you the sources. Trimmingham, 1962, Beauville, 1968, Let Zion, 1973. Let Zion is one of the most cited. He has two published works, 1985.
Now, for all you internet scholars out there, this is where you want to be careful because you have people like me who actually do this type of stuff. See these sources down here he's talking about? Trimmingham, 1962. The History of Islam in Africa. What's the next? Beauville, 1968. What's the next? Lepsian, this is Nehemiah, 1973 and 1985. This is the 1973 Nehemiah. And this is the 1985. So all you internet players, all you internet guys, have to be careful quoting stuff that you don't know what you're talking about. Because Nehemiah didn't actually write this book. He's an editor. This book is over 65 sources. It's a book of sources. The actual writings. These are the authors, not Nehemiah. These are just translations, not Nehemiah. But we'll keep going.
And of course, Basil Davidson, who wrote the book, I think, African Kingdoms or African Ancient Kingdoms. I can't think of it right now. He says, for example, Al-Zuri, circa 1137 through 54, in the manuscript referred to as the Book of Geography, recorded that the people of Ghana turned Muslim in 1076 and 77, excuse me, due to the actions of the Almoravids.
Now he's on page 230. I want you to pay attention. Now he's up here. He's quoting Al-Zuri, not Levzian and Hopkins, not Nehemiah. I want you to pay attention while he plays Scrabble with the word Almoravids. Even though this completely wrong, I want you to pay attention.
This is key, people. This is key. I want to stop right here. Al is the definite article in Arabic that means the. Now, this should be common knowledge. You have Almoravids. Ids, well, it's like ish, or it's like ite. It means belonging to a people. It references the people. So if I take the definite article of the Arabic off, and I take the anglicized ids off, that leaves me with Morav.
All right, now, for those who don't know, the word Almoravids is the word in Western usage. Euro-American. In Arabic, the word is Almoravitan. People of the Rabat, people of the fort. Almoravids is the Western usage. This is the problem you have when you rely on something that you don't know what you're talking about. Almoravids is the Western usage of the word. It's Almoravitan. People of the fort, people from the Rabat in Arabic.
Those that know Hebrew know that when translating the Hebrew into the English, transliterating, in the English, it is rendered two ways, M-O apostrophe A-B and M-O apostrophe A-V, Moav. When they're saying Al-Moravid, they're saying the Moabite.
They're not saying nothing about any Moabites. I can't make that clearer because there's no way to disprove it because he simply made it up. The Almoravids, people of the Rabat, led by Abdullah Yassin, didn't exist until the 11th century. I don't know where he get this Moab stuff from. He just making it up.
I prove this, not by my own opinions or some whimsical religious teachings that Prophet Noble Drew Ali made up. I prove this in the historical records, and I'll pull all of that up as well. Because one thing that I do, I don't care what nobody says about me, my teaching style, etc., is that I show and prove and I back up everything that I teach. And what's my opinion? Oh, I'll let you know, in my opinion, this, or in my opinion, that. Let me continue to read. It says, due to the actions of the Almoravids, again, he cites Lepsian and Hawkins, 1981, and then Hawkins' book in 1998.
Now, that was just a slip of the tongue, but the average individual won't catch this, but people like me will. He's quoting the corpus. Timothy Insall is quoting the corpus. To put it in his book, he has to label it this way. He's quoting Al-Zuri from Nehemiah and Hopkins' book from 1981, page 98. If we go there, Nehemiah and Hopkins, page 98, is Al-Zuri. This is what he's quoting. But if you're reading something you don't know what you're talking about, you end up sounding and looking like Abba here.
Oh, they're calling the Almoravids a reforming puritanical movement, which drew its support from the Sanhaja nomads of the Western Sahara. This is important because we're talking about the Sahel region. I'm going to get into all of that as well. And he cites Lepsian again. Lepsian is the main source spreading this stuff, and we can see Lepsian is a Jewish name.
Now, let me give you a little background on Nehemiah. Nehemiah is one of the most prolific writers of Islam in Africa the world has ever seen. I got a lot of his works. I got most of his articles. And of course this one. And of course this one. And the thing is, when he died, like Abba said, he was a Jew. That's a Jewish name. But when he died, the question was raised, was he a Muslim? And they was asking this because he was the biggest apologist for Islam. In Nehemiah's eyes, Islam did no wrong. But moving forward,
it says also Ibn Khaldun died 1406 in his Kitab al-Ibar. Ibn Khaldun, they called him the Arabic or Islamic Strabo, Josephus, but he was racist towards our people. It is what it is. It says he relates that the veiled people, also a reference to the Almoravids, extended their domination over the Sudan and pillaged, imposed tribute and poll tax, and converted many of them to Islam. Again, he cites Lepsian and Hop.
Now let me bring you all up to speed. None of these authors that Abba is quoting will say that the Almoravids were black people. None of them. The historical record just does not say that. None of these people that he's so excited to be quoting says that the Almoravids were black Africans. All of them say they were white Berbers versus the black vassals. The blacks worked for the Almoravids. The blacks attacked the Almoravids attacked the blacks. You got one case of Ben Levi Wajabi working with the Almoravids to set Ghana. But I'm gonna show it to you, but just watch.
But this researcher continues, little supporting evidence has been found for these claims. Yet, for a long time, it was believed that zealous hordes of Almoravid desert warriors supported by soldiers from the Muslim kingdom of Takror in Senegal, and we're going to get to Takror later.
Now, at this point, he's talking about Takror. Takror takes on many different locations and many different meanings throughout history. But in this time period, Takror is a kingdom or city-state empire that's right beside Ghana. Takror takes on a more militant form of Islam. Ghana really isn't into Islam at this time period. This is where you have Ben Levi Wajabi come in, and he teams up with the Almoravids, and they take on Ghana, a competitor to Takror. Some people say conquered. Some people say they just converted them or took them from the form of Islam known as Abadi or the Abidos. I can't even say it right. A form of Karajite. Karajite was the first form of Islam in West Africa. If you go to the writings of al-Bakri from the 11th century, this is where you have Wajabi. The inhabitants are blacks, or Sudan, who were previously like all the other blacks, pagans and worshipped idols. Wajabi became their ruler. He embraced Islam. You can read it for yourself. But he teamed up with the Almoravids.
destroyed the pagan empire of Ghana and forcibly converted the inhabitants to Islam in the years of 1076 and 1077.
See, now I just want you to know that Warjabba was dead in the years that they're talking about. But if you're just a guy like Abba who doesn't know what you're talking about, you're just reading stuff and not thinking critically. Warjabba was dead in the years they're talking about.
The author notes, a reevaluation of both the Arabic and local oral sources by the historians David Conrad and Humphrey Fisher, 1982-1983, has convincingly shown that Ghana was not conquered by the Almoravids. And this is the theme when they...
All right. We get to another point where he's just quoting stuff and he just doesn't know what he's talking about. See, Conrad and Fisher didn't really prove anything. They was just talking about what wasn't written. And they was talking about how blacks were the vassals to the white Berbers, Almoravids. See, this lady from Chicago wrote an article right after them. Another reading of the conquest that never was. She came back like, yo, y'all just trying to make it look like the blacks was just weak. When in reality, the blacks fought the Almoravids. This is why the leader of the southern branch of the Almoravids died in the war against the blacks, because the blacks had gained their power back and the people in the south, that is the Sahel, was starting to pay allegiance to the blacks. So Abu Bakr Umar, he went called himself going back into the desert to put the blacks in control. But he died fighting the blacks. So you wouldn't know this if you're just listening to Abba, somebody who's just quoting stuff and doesn't know what he's talking about.
Say the Moors, you've all heard this. The Moors of some guy got this crazy video up called "The Moors Destroyed the Black Race." Sarah Sutin said he did a whole series. That's how he came to fame. But now we deconstruct that stuff and show. That's why I said he never wanted to have any public discourse with me, because he knew, because we would talk, me, him, all of these guys would be on the phone and I would be reading the sources, chopping down all of his claims. And he knew having a public discourse with me would have blotted out his life. It says, similarly, the archaeological evidence does not support the conquest hypothesis, meaning that's the name of this book. Let me go back and tell. The name of this book is called The Archaeology of Islam in Sub-Saharan Africa by Timothy Insall, published in the year 2003. It goes on to state, the archaeological evidence does not support the conquest hypothesis. The evidence for the accompanying destruction that supposedly went hand in hand with the conquest is not conclusive at Kombe Sela, a city in ancient Ghana. It says the evidence for destruction was reported as being found at a depth of 5 miles, though it was also admitted that this hardly constituted conclusive proof for an Almoravid raid. He cites the source De Vries, 1992, page 186. He says, remember that this was, after all, a town whose population has been estimated at between 15,000 and 20,000 and bisected by an avenue up to 12 miles in width. And he says, see above, so a lot of evidence for destruction might be expected. One thing that we know is that when you invade another nation, and the history records this, and archaeologists use the term substrata. And this is how they're able to determine who lived on the land prior to the coming of whoever lived there now, by researching the substratum artifacts. They dig layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. This is non-evident in Ghana. It's non-evident anywhere in ancient Africa, because if we came, we would have wanted to what? smash all the idols and destroy anything that was not Islamic. And they would have found us. There's no archaeology, which is the very reason why that book was written. People, you can deny this, but it doesn't not make it true. It's all facts.
Now, he got all excited, thinking he had a smoking gun. He got the archaeology. But while they was filming this video, I was in the comment section while they was live streaming. I'm like, man, read page 231. Read 231. Because Abba was so excited, thinking he had the smoking gun, not realizing that a person like me is in the crowd and that I know that he's lying. Because this book about archaeology, they tell you on page 231 that they haven't actually found the location. Come say like the capital and historical records. They haven't found anything. They haven't actually found it. So read it for yourself. It's still unresolved. So he all excited talking about, oh, the archaeologist says there's no evidence of destruction. And they telling you that the actual location hasn't been found. This is what happens when you don't actually read the books that you say you own. You're just quoting stuff. You come out looking crazy. But the average individual would just take that, oh, he must be telling the truth. When in reality, he's being disingenuous.
To Sahara. However, in 1544, Sultan Muhammad al-Mahdi, the founder of the Saidid power in Morocco, demanded the ruler of Songhai, Askia Ishaq I, to give him the mines. Askia Ishaq naturally refused to do it, and a war broke out. So there was a war between these two Islamic empires. People try to make this claim. This was Islam right here. And I'm going to get deeper into that as well. He continues. The Moroccans sent an army to occupy Gaza, but the army was destroyed in the desert. As response to this, a Songhai army consisting of Tuaregs attacked northwards and sacked the southern parts of Morocco, forcing Sultan Mohammed to flee from Marrakesh. Similarly, the rulers of Bornu, lying around Lake Chad, were able to expand their political dominance deep into Fezzan, occupying the oasis until the 16th century.
All right, we come to a point where he's quoting more stuff that he has no idea what he's talking about. And it's people like me that's the cause of this. You got these internet guys that just spewing rhetoric, just grabbing stuff off the internet and have no clue what they're talking about. Not applying no critical thought or anything. They're just grabbing something and running with it. See, I should have been done my West African presentation, the history of West Africa. So let me bring you up to speed. It's hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of books about Africa. When you get to West Africa, it's really not that many. You got all these manuscripts. And you got all these other books. There's opinions upon opinions upon opinions. Then you got the Timbuktu manuscripts, where it's close to 1 million manuscripts. Estimates are in the millions. Of all these manuscripts dealing with the history of West Africa, but the majority of them are religious writings. And some of them are dealing with sciences, some of them are dealing with maths, some of them are dealing with the solar system. However, out of all the hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, there's only 2 that reign supreme. And there's only 2 that everyone quotes in their books. There's only 2 that really give you the real history of West Africa. You got the Fatouche, the Chronicle of the Secret, and you got the Tariq Sadan, the Chronicle of the Blacks, by Rahman al-Saidi and Mahmoud Kadi. Well, he was the grandson, but his grandfather actually started the book. Now, I got to bring you up to a little bit more speed. It's a little bit more complicated. This book is full of stories. This book is full of names. I call Rockman Al-Sadie, I call him Name Drop because it gives you a name for everything. Mahmoud Katie gives you a story for everything. But you have to be careful with this book depending on what version you get. This book has a 19th century forgery written by Maurice Delafosse in French. Maurice Delafosse is where you get the bogus thing of the chronicle going from Ghana, Mali, Senegal. But reality is Ghana, Mali, Senegal all existed at the same time. So let's rewind it. This is Mahmoud Katie, the storyteller. Both of them are black. Rockman Al-Sadie, he's a Berber. He has black blood. He tells you, my father's grandmother was a Fulani. And him, he's a Saniki. He's a black man. But Abba's quoting stuff, he has no idea what he's quoting. But let's get back to it. Hold on, and this is the third one, the third major source of West Africa. It's 65 authors. Well, over 65. The corpus. All of these authors that mention West Africa. Some go into detail and some of them don't. Well, most of them don't. But these two, if you ever find a book or have a book, I guarantee you they will be quoting from one of these two books. Let me add in that there's two more books. You have a 18th or 19th century chronicle called A Reminder to the Oblivious. And you have the 19th century Canoe Chronicles or Kano Chronicles. Those books are not as important, not for what we're dealing with today. So you got the Reminder to the Oblivious and you got the Canoe Chronicles, written in the 18th and 19th century. These books were written in the 17th century.
We've been taught the opposite. We've been taught that the Moroccan army came down and conquered West Africa. And we're going to get into that too. It's not the case. History shows that a Songhai army, however, did go into Morocco. And ran the Sultan from off of his seat. So where are they getting their information from? Their information is not matching up with the historical contemporaneous documentation. We have been reading from polemics against our religion with the sole purpose of making sure that you never accept the religion. That's why people are making the craziest comments in the chat saying that Prophet Muhammad never existed.
All right, let me slow it down so people can understand. The Moroccans did conquer Senegal. They didn't conquer West Africa. West Africa is over 2.5 million square miles. The Songhai Empire was this barrier between the Europeans and the Black lands. The Moroccans destroyed the Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire, when it failed, it set off a series of events that led to what you have in West Africa today, well, after the 19th century jihads. But once the Songhai Empire failed, everything caved in. When he says the Moroccans never conquered West Africa, it's partially true. They conquered Songhai and they destroyed it. The Moroccans sent the Moors, aka Europeans. And I'm saying aka Europeans because that's what they were. They were Europeans. Pasha Mahmud, Pasha Mimi, and Pasha Judah were all Spaniards. They were Europeans. So I'm gonna slow it down a little bit more, give you a little chronology. Whenever you hear somebody talking about 1492, the Moors were expelled from Spain. I want you to pay attention. In 1492, when they were kicking the Moors from Spain, kicking them out of Spain, they were not kicking out black Africans. they were kicking out Berbers and Spaniards, Moors. They were kicking out white people. Because in the 1440s, the middle of the 15th century, the 1440s, you had these people looking for Prester John, and they went down to West Africa, and they captured some Moors. And this Moor was like, yo, I got some black people for you. If you're ever hearing about it, say Dawood the Moor, this is in 1440s, I think 1444 to be exact. This is where the start of the importation of blacks into Europe happens. So in 1492, they're not kicking out blacks, because in 1440s, they're importing blacks. This also explains why Morocco was flooded with Europeans, because they converted to Islam. This also explains why the Moors sent down in 1591 are Europeans, because Morocco was flooded with Europeans. Those Moors that sacked Songhai, Timbuktu, Guinea, or Guillaume are all Europeans. But let's get back to it.
If a European didn't say this, we wouldn't have it. Yeah, you wanted to say something, brother?
Yeah. Somebody in the chat room, he been saying a lot of this class and Shabazz. You see the comment? He's saying that he was saying that the years was different.
I don't know. I can't see it. It's a bunch of. I'll just click back on it. The comments are just going crazy. So they just scrolling. He said which years were different?
Let me see. He said in 1591 they did not come and sack Timbuktu. So and then he said your years are off.
But I didn't say that. I said 1544.
See, at this point, I'm in the comment section going crazy. Like, yo, shout out to Six Dynasty Media. But I'm in the comment section like, yo, his date's wrong. I might have got my dates kind of wrong too. But I'm like, 1544 is totally different from 1591. 1544 is Askia Ashek the First. Then you got Askia Dawood after Askia Ashek the First. After Askia Dawood, you got one of his sons. Then you got Askia Ashek the Second. It's a lot of stuff going on in between. See the whole. All right, so let me go back to Askia Ashek the First. Ashek the First was a straight G. He would murder anybody who he thought wasn't on his side. So when a Moroccan sent him a letter talking about give us your salt mines, like, fam, I'm not going. I don't know who you think you is, but you don't run nothing down here. This is the land of the blacks. And the Tagaza salt mine is in the desert. It's north. It's closer to Morocco. But Ashek the First, like, yo, I worked for that. I conquered that. I took that. That's mine. And I'm not finna give it to you. So I'm going to show it to you. So we turn to the history of the blacks. This is Askia Ashek the First. He was the most illustrious of those who held that office. You read it for yourself. Executed, he killed anybody. All right, now we get to the point where the Sultan from Morocco, like, yo, let us get the mines. Ashek like, yo, I'm a G, yo. You ain't getting nothing from me. Read it yourself now. He sent them up north. He sent some Tuaregs up north to raid it, just to show his power. He sent some Berbers. Berbers were just basically mercenaries at this time period. The Berbers that lived in the Sahel closest to the blacks, they were mercenaries. They worked for whoever. You may want to pause it and read it once or twice. This was done simply to demonstrate his power. He told them, don't kill anybody, just show them how powerful the blacks are. But you wouldn't know that listening to a person like Abba.
But I'm going to get to 1591.
Okay.
I'm going to get to 1591. See, like this, I do this. All right. This is from my note. And these are the three sources that I'm drawing from. The first source is Timbuktu and the Songhai Empire, Al-Sadi's Tariq al-Sudan, down to 1613 and other contemporary documents, published in 2003 by John Hunwick.
Nah, I ain't gonna say a word. Ain't this what he quoting from, supposedly? And he's so lost in his lies that he's gonna repeat the same book as his second source, and not even realize. This is what happens when you're just grabbing stuff off the internet and calling yourself a scholar.
The first source is Timbuktu and the Songhai Empire, Al-Sadi's Tariq al-Sudan, down to 1613 and other contemporary documents, published in 2003 by John Hunwick, page 2003. No, that's not the page. I wrote the wrong thing. Forgive me. The second one is Tariq al-Sudan, The History of Sudan. It was a chronicle written in Arabic around 1655 by an Abd al-Sadi. And number 3, The Historical Dictionary of Mali by Pascal James Imperato and Gavin H. Perato, published in 2008, page 21. In summary.
See, I don't own that third book by Pascal, The Historical Dictionary. But this is page 21 of that book about the Za dynasty. And what he's talking about isn't on page 21. I don't know if he got his notes mixed up or something, but it's not on page 21. And nobody goes back to the 7th century. Maybe he's talking about the 7th century of the Hydra, but he's not talking about Islamic in the 7th century. Because in his book that he says this is one of his sources, if he actually read the book, he would know for a fact that the first 14 were not Muslim. So I want you to read it for yourself. Zuhr Aliman, that's what he's about to say. This from Name Drop. These 14 kings all died before the coming of Islam. But moving forward,
I note the first dynasty of this region, of the Songhai region, was Islamic. And it was founded by a man named Za Alayaman. So where we get the name Za or Zuhr dynasty, most people have never heard of this dynasty. It was the Askia, which means king ruler, Muhammad I, the ruler of Songhai, who overthrew the Zuhr Islamic dynasty that had ruled Songhai since the 7th century AD. Za Alayaman was a Moor who traveled from Yemen and peaceably brought Islam to the region. So now, how the Songhai Empire gets established in the first place is by the conquering of one Islamic empire over another. Nobody knows about this. But now I'm giving them the references, because they talk about 1591 a lot. They don't do enough background and critical analysis of all of the information pertaining to a subject. You'll watch from the Amin Ra squad, right? There's this condition called confirmation bias, where people find things that only support their claim. So I call them one-sided scholars. So he'll have like 4 different books that say the same thing. And he'll say, this author says this, and this author says that, but never read what the other authors that argue against the position say. Confirmation bias, one-sided scholars. Now, let me reiterate.
All right, now. It's embarrassing at this point. But all the stuff he's talking about, confirmation bias, all this stuff he's talking about himself. But here goes the name again. Now watch him spell it. And now remember now, they all died before the coming of Islam. Now, watch how he just skipped over the Sunni dynasty with Sunni Ali birth. Now just watch how he skip over it and go straight to Askia Muhammad, because he doesn't know chronology and he doesn't know what he's talking about.
The Za or Zua dynasty, which was founded in the 7th century AD by a man named Za, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Alayyaman, Alayyaman, that's Zalayyaman, Za Alayyaman, founded this dynasty. He peaceably brought Islam to that Songhai region. This is why you don't know about. We've been taught that Islam was brought into Africa by way of the sword. So this history has never reached us. But now I'm giving you the research, the references, so that you can go research for yourself now and see that the historical records is 100% all wise, right, and exact. And that the Askia, Muhammad I of Songhai, overthrew and deposed the rulers of this particular empire and established his own form of rule. So let's get into this. The Moors of Morocco did invade the Moors of Songhai in 1591 and overthrew Askia Ishaq II. But why did they invade Songhai? And I want to be clear on that. This invasion wasn't how it's noted in your one-sided history books. So let's get into it. This is from a historical dictionary of Mali by Pascal James Imperato and Gavin H. Imperato, published in the year 2008 on page 8. It says the early Askias.
All right. Whatever you're about to say is not on page 8. It's not in this book. But I'll address it anyway. So let's scroll all the way to the top. All right, let me go to the top. Let's go to the top. It's not on page 8, whatever you're about to say. In this book. But I'll address it anyway.
Spent the better part of their early reign eliminating rivals and the rest forestalling coups, which suggests to this researcher that these rulers themselves must have, this is my note. This is not a direct quote. This is my note. This is not a direct quote. That these rulers themselves must have been despotic. Research concludes this fact. There was always internal conflict after the 33-year reign of Askia Daoud. Now remember, if you conquer a people and the people are still there, there's going to always be internal conflict. We have a contemporaneous reference today in the Middle East. In 1948, the British, what is it called? The British Mandate for Palestine was issued, and the people who usurped the name Jews today kicked out 400,000 Palestinians off their land, and that region has been unstable since. So these Askias that took over this region, well, according to my summary, my summary comes from the Historical Dictionary of Mali by Pascal James Imperato, and let me just read the whole thing again. The early Askias spent the better part of their early reign eliminating rivals, and the rest forestalling coups, which suggests to this researcher that these rulers themselves must have been despotic to a degree. And the research concludes this fact.
Now, I don't know where he get off calling these people despots, but let me give you a little bit more information about the two chronicles. They're written by two different sets of people, written around the same time. This one was compiled over time by the grandfather, then the grandson, and maybe the research is saying that maybe there was a third person involved. Both in the 17th century. They mostly differ, but they largely agree. Now, when he's talking about despots or people that weren't good at skills, he's making it up. They're both writing about the history of the blacks, but there's nothing despot about Askia Dawood. Abba simply is making it up. Now, when it comes to the people after Dawood, that's when the problem resides. After a great ruler, everybody wants power. And that's not uncommon in anywhere else. It was going on like crazy in Morocco. So don't let anybody like Abba tell you that these people were despots.
Always internal conflict after the 33-year reign of Askia Dawood, a Muslim who ruled as a true Muslim and responsible for the advance in education in that region. He gave alms, he rebuilt the great mosque of Timbuktu, etc. Timbuktu reached its zenith under Askia Dawood. So this is where we see the greatness of this region called Timbuktu etched in the historical records. And it was because of this one ruler, which was Askia Dawood. But then there comes his sons. His sons, on the other hand, they resulted in more despotic rule, and the struggle over power between his sons is what weakened that empire. Then on page 22, and this is a direct quote, it says, Askia Ishak II, a son of Askia Dawood, succeeded his brother Askia Muhammad Bani. Bani died in 1588 en route to stemming a major rebellion in the western provinces led by Muhammad el-Sadiq. With the support of the Makshar and Tuareg and some of the notables of Timbuktu, el-Sadiq proclaimed himself Askia. So basically this guy was saying, yo, forget these despots that's ruling. I'm the new Askia right now. Well, a war ensued, and Ishak II defeated Muhammad el-Sadiq and then executed him and punished his supporters. In doing so, Ishak II alienated valuable allies who could have helped him when the greatest threat to Songhai, the quote-unquote Moroccan invasion, occurred. Page 21, now summarize. History shows us that it was the Sultan El-Mansur. He was the one that deposed Askia Ishak II.
Ahmed Al-Mansur, a.k.a. Al-Dabi, a.k.a. the Golden One, a.k.a. the King of Guinea. He got the name the King of Guinea after the conquest of the Songhai Empire. In this time period, Guinea was everything below the Sahara. Not just Guinea, what you see today, but everything below the desert was just like how the Arabs have the Balad of Sudan, the land of the blacks. The Berbers will call the blacks Guinea. This is the Moroccan perspective. This is from Al-Dabi. These perspectives is from the blacks. This is the black perspective. This is the North African perspective. So let's get back to it. All right. One more thing. If you ever hear anybody say Al-Dabi, a.k.a. the Golden One, was black, it's coming from Al-Raqi, or our fish telling. It's going to come from one of those two sources out of everything else in the world. If anybody ever says he's black, it's coming from here. Just because he says it doesn't mean it's true. Because there's no evidence of people making fun of him because of his skin color like they did Malik Ishmael, which is an entirely different story.
After 2 waves of fighting, to which Askia lost the first, he made concessions with the Pasha of Morocco.
Alright, since Abba doesn't know chronology, there's a lot going on in between this. Askia Ashek II is in power now. Ahmed al-Mansur is in power now. Askia Dawood, the great ruler of the Sun God, established a great relationship with Ahmed Mansur. He sent Ahmed al-Mansur a whole bunch of gold and stuff. And then they established a friendly relationship. He let them know, I'm the man of the South, and you can do your thing up there, but just don't come messing with us down here. You do your thing in North Africa. You do your thing. Now, when Askia Dawood died, Ahmed al-Mansur got word of it, and he saw that there was infighting. He saw it as a time to take advantage of what he called spear chucking individuals. Just a bunch of spear chuckers. At this time period, the Moroccans had guns. He says it will be easy for us to take over the Sudan, the land of the blacks. Now he went to his ulema, his council, and they like, nah, they are Muslims. There's no point in this. And what he did was he made up a lie and said, yo, we could combine Islam and be a real power to the Christians. We're going to do it for the Islamic Empire. So they like, all right, well, since you put it that way, go ahead and do it, even though nobody has accomplished this. So he sent another letter asking for the Tagaza, for a tax on the Tagaza salt mines, saying he had a better right to them. So let me show you this. Check this out. This is I done it writing a letter to Askia Ashek II. Now, they don't like the Moroccans. But actually, we have hold on, Askia Ashek did the same thing that Askia Ashek I did. He like, no, this is my salt, man. You're not getting it. This is short form of a long story. Pasha Jadar. Alright, now hold on. Now when I say Pasha Jadar, Pasha Mimi, and Pasha Mahmud were Europeans, I mean they were European. Short, blue-eyed eunuch. Because remember, 1492, they kicking out Moors. They went to Morocco. In fact, the official language, or the business language, or the diplomatic language of Morocco in the 16th and 17th centuries was Spanish. But the Songhai ain't never seen no real Europeans. Because they have never seen a real European. Now when I say white Berbers, let me show you a white Berber. Now when I say white Berber, I'm talking about this. This Berber will what you would call a white man with his two servants. with his 2 Bella-Alkaline servants. This is actually 2 different groups of people. Bruce Hall has it combined. You should also, or you could also look up the Harrington, descendants of the slaves of the Berbers. But whenever you hear me say white or somebody else say white Berbers, they're talking about individuals like this. And they're black vassals, which would be like this.
So now he's trying to, like, you know, he's trying to talk it out. Like, all right, look, you know, can we come to some type of... No. El Mansour would hear none of it and sent a new pasha named Mahmud to...
Now, what he's talking about is the Battle of Tondibi. Tondibi. The Battle of Tondibi. The Moroccans had guns. The blacks didn't. Remember, Ahmed al-Mansur just called them a bunch of spirituals. The Moroccans had the guns, the blacks didn't. Now, Pasha Judar sacked Timbuktu and Gap. Now, this is from the blacks' perspective. They hated the Moroccans. Now, the people and the supporters of the true rulers of Songhai, they left and went to Dindi. This is a long, long story that I will have to go into great detail about. But what's going on is, if you read the actual sources, or you get somebody like Elias Said, he breaks it down that Pasha Judar is actually like screw Morocco too. So he's screwing over Morocco because once they got there and took over, you have what is called the Pashalik Rumor or the Pashalik Armor. They said screw Morocco and they started marrying them some black women and was like, yo, we're gonna do this and we're gonna say forget Morocco. But let's keep going.
Completely subjugate Songhai. After the second battle, Ishaq's forces were defeated and his own army deposed him. And his brother Mohammed Gao was placed upon the throne. It was French assimilation that brought down the kingdom once and for all.
Now we at a point where you must know the source material, because if you don't, all the stuff Abba's saying may sound like it's making sense, but it's not. Askia Muhammad Gao was a puppet Askia. I mean, he was a puppet king, meaning nobody respected him because he was under control by the Moroccans. Most of the Songhai people fled and went to Dindi, where they made another Askia. Now, some time down the line, Askia Noah came to power. Now, again, you must know the source material, because the people of the Sahel region fought the people of the Savannah region, who fought the people of the forest region, which was the Akan forest. Now, when Askia Noah came to power, he was being chased by one of the Pashas. The Pashas chased him all the way down to the forest. Now, when the people of the forest saw Askia Noah coming, they was ready to fight Askia Noah. But when they saw the Europeans chasing Askia Noah, they didn't fight Askia Noah. They joined forces with Askia Noah, meaning the people from the Akan forest joined up with the people from the Sahel region and fighting off these Moors. True stories in both of the sources. Now let's continue on.
So on page 21 of the book Historical Dictionary of Mali by Pascal James Imperato and Gavin H. Imperato, published in 2008, you cannot refute the facts. The facts are the facts, and this is Islam in a nutshell. Let me end with this. The invasion of Islam, the invasion of West Africa by Islam is a myth. The bringing of Islam into Africa by sword and forcible conversion is a myth. These things are debunked by the historical record. These things are debunked by the archaeological record. This Songhai invasion of Morocco was because of despots that was sitting on the throne. And El Mansur was the sultan over the whole empire. And in being the sultan over the whole empire, his actions of executing other Muslims is what pissed off the sultan in Morocco. So people are getting this thing confused, and they don't even know that it still was internal Islamic strife at that. The sultan saw that these guys are not practicing Islam. These guys are practicing something else, and they went and they took over that. They didn't even take over. They just deposed him and put his brother Muhammad Gal on the throne. And then, as the historical records note, French assimilation is what undid that empire once and for all. It was not Islam if you can prove otherwise. And you cannot. Please, let's go. That's all you have to do. Let's go.
Now, anybody with knowledge of Timbuktu or French West Africa knows that the French didn't take over until the 19th century. Until all the way after the whole scramble for Africa thing. I don't know how you jump from the 17th century to the 19th century and say the French are the reason that the Songhai Empire failed. You just making that up, man. There's a huge time gap in there. You got the rise of the Fulani, man. You got the jihads of Usman Danfodio, the Shihu. You got El Hajj Umar. You got Amadou Lobo. You got a whole bunch of stuff going on in between it. But that's coming from somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. Internet scholars, such as Abba, quoting stuff he doesn't own and haven't actually read, comes to those kind of crazy, wacky conclusions. But this was a one-time event, man. I'm out.